really like modern superhero media. I feel like the majority of it can't strike the proper balance between serious and playful, like Patch Adams telling you your husband is now a quadriplegic. There's a certain weight to the stakes of a superhero film that is often very at odds with its colorful, preppy, jokey elements. The plots are too serious to take lightly, but the characters are often cocky, smarmy comedians, and I just can't get invested. Often the best method for handling this difference is to tone down the drama with campiness.
Your destiny is at its end, X-Men. The Dark Phoenix has come to destroy you all!
Or make your film an outright comedy with lower, more personal stakes. The fate of humanity doesn't always have to be at stake, despite what TV news producers might tell you. Obviously, I'm in the minority. The Avengers formula was and continues to be a success, and most people do enjoy what Marvel puts out, but for me, it's hard to take most of it seriously. My favorite superhero stuff is the ones that are more campy and comedic: Shazam, Teen Titans, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor Ragnarok, and Japanese tokusatsu shows. Maybe this has something to do with my deep-seated love of Power Rangers. I like cheesiness, lightness, good structure, and, if possible, rubber suit mini-city monster fights, but I can't expect everything I want. James Gunn seems to get me on that though, so that's cool. So naturally I avoided most of DC. I never seen Man of Aluminum, Night Guy v Flyboy, or the Kill Yourself crew. The Snyder era of DC completely passed me by. The elements that pulled me away from Marvel movies seem to only be amplified by DC. Also, as a Watchmen comic fan, I despised what Snyder did in the 2009 movie adaptation. I eventually saw Wonder Woman and Aquaman, but those seem to lean more towards the generalized superhero framework popularized by Marvel movies, like when your metalhead friend becomes a brony. Wonder Woman was okay, and Aquaman was forgettable. Aquaman was forgettable. Shazam was good, but that one doesn't count. I avoided Justice League 2017 like the plague and had zero interest in Wonder Woman 1984 as well. So here we are at the most insane shit to ever happen in movie history. A movie that was reshot and re-edited to course-correct a struggling cinematic universe has been re-reshot and re-edited to appeal to the fans lost by making the initial changes to the first attempt, all during a pandemic, limiting release to a streaming service, allowing the director to be twice as indulgent, doubling down on the aspects that made it controversial in the first place. Well, tell you this, because of everything I just explained, I didn't expect to like Justice League as much as I did. In respect to what I said earlier about weighty, over-serious, self-important storytelling, it seemed that the problem was more that these heavy themes just weren't treated with enough respect. My proposed solution was to just get rid of those themes and not explore them in this genre. The potential death of the Earth isn't cute. Joss Whedon quippiness while one mistake could mean the end of life on Earth just never sat right with me. Jack Spider's Justice League knew when to express comedy and when to take things seriously. While doing a very morbid and uncomfortable activity like digging up Superman's body, it would make sense for people to make awkward jokes to each other to try to lighten the mood. Not so much when you're scared shitless that Superman might attack and murder you after being revived. You don't fart during a Mexican standoff, no matter how many refried beans you ate. Zack Snyder's Just Ass League is truly an epic. And I mean just ass as a compliment. I mean, who doesn't like ass, you know? I mean, it really did feel like a slow-building fantasy epic that took its time setting things up and generously doled out its payoff, like a book except enjoyable. The pacing was perfect. I never felt bored, confused, or uninterested. I wanted to see what was going to happen next. All of the characters felt well established and connected to each other, and just like the meat I ordered from the translucent cow farm, the stakes were clear. Watching this felt how watching superhero shows as a kid felt. The cynicism dropped, and I found myself saying, "Oh shit, oh fuck," and "Yes, come on!" However, I also found myself at times saying, "Ugh," and There's plenty of cringy lines, annoying moments, and logical issues. I could get snippy about, like, how Superman's dead body didn't have some special burial that might be guarded or anything. Why didn't Cyborg make an account for the Flash before he scanned it the first time, etc., etc. But honestly, fixing these kinds of nitpicks wouldn't improve the quality of the storytelling. My biggest issue with Justice League comes from the characters. Let's break them all down for a second. Batman is very serious, but sometimes he's also kind of an asshole. Aquaman is, pretty serious most of the time, but occasionally he can kind of, be an asshole. And Wonder Woman, her thing in this movie is that, most of the time she's pretty serious, but sometimes, she's kind of an asshole. And Superman really stood out because, like, sometimes he can be an asshole, but most of the time he's pretty serious. And the Flash is the most annoying person on the face of the planet. Okay, to be fair, the Flash is an awesome character in this movie, but Barry Allen really got on my tits. I get that he's supposed to be, like, kind of uncomfortable and awkward, but there's a way to be awkward and charming. If there wasn't, Mark Ruffalo would be homeless right now. For example, when the Flash is applying for a job and he's making his little awkward, maybe even improvised jokes, it just comes off as uncomfortable. However, the Flash putting a floating hot dog in his pocket out of nowhere while saving a woman took me by surprise and made me laugh. So, like all other parts of the movie, the superhero-y elements are executed very well, but the human stuff, not so much. It either elevates to alright and not distracting, or I vomit in my mouth a little bit. One of the things that Snyder's Buffalo Pretzel League taught me is the importance of letting your movie breathe. Cutting an hour and a half out of this would have seriously damaged it. One of my complaints about superhero films is how overbearing they are with fast-moving, ceaseless overstimulation, like fellatio with too much head stimulation. Work that shaft, boys. Snyder took hours setting up purposeful scenes that were slow when they needed to be and action-packed when they were earned. I'm one of the few defenders of Peter Jackson's King Kong. One complaint about that movie is that it was too long, but I thought it was such a grand, epic experience. It was trying to elevate itself above its genre and use the old tropes to give us something more, like when a stripper starts singing. I wasn't really expecting that, not really what I'm here for, but hey, fuck it, let's involve my other feelings, why not? I wonder if Man of Steel and Batman v Superman had taken their time and were permitted to be longer, maybe they would have been more positively received critically. Perhaps this is something that Snyder envisioned, but the studio shot him down. Maybe things will be different in the future as an at-home viewing experience is now possible. Maybe we can get deeper stories more patiently told for a longer runtime to be viewed in the comfort of your own yeah, right. Now that COVID restrictions are lifting and people are getting their vaccines, the new dank will have to fit back in the theater mold. The problem is that an HBO Max series can't have this production value because the box office money just isn't there. I hope for the future that we can maybe let movies be a little bit longer when they need to be. Perhaps we could go back to doing intermissions like in the olden days. Maybe we could also wear suits into the theater as well and treat cinema like a real art form again. And maybe houses could cost $2,000 and a lifetime of crippling debt wouldn't be mandatory to survive in society. And then we could all eat rainbows and fly around using pixie dust. And maybe Jared Leto could eventually learn to play a convincing Joker.